let's get started. We just have a few items to go over before we begin. Everyone in the audience will be muted. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat or question queue, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar overviews mapping missions with the Anzu Raptor. And to kick off this webinar is our enterprise survey and mapping consultant, Whitaker Gramley.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who haven't yet met me, my name is Whitaker. I'm the surveying and mapping specialist here at Multicopter Warehouse. And Multicopter Warehouse, we're based here in Denver, Colorado. And we've been serving the construction industries, surveying, mapping, public safety, utility inspections, and the consumer industries for about the last 14 years. Today, we're going to be talking about the Anzu Raptor and the new mapping mission planning features that they have up on the new update last week. So we've had our Raptors for a little while, a couple weeks now, and they flew great. But we did not have any mapping planning options up until July 3rd. They put out the update, and I had the privilege of testing it out earlier this week. And so I'm kind of going to go through that process and show you guys what that looks like. And then I'll take some questions at the end. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat, put them in the questions box, and we'll get through as many or all of them as possible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Anzu Robotics, just in general, before we go into the flight planning, corrections, and mission execution. So some of this may look a little familiar if you've ever planned a mission in a DJI drone, but some of it is pretty different. So we'll be kind of going through all of that today. Anzu Robotics is a new drone manufacturer based here in the United States. American owned and operated, but they bring a lot of the capabilities and hardware features that we're used to and familiar with as far as DJI drones go. So the way Anzu has separated themselves from DJI, they have licensed technology from DJI, but they're using US-based servers over in Texas, and all the support, service, and repair is based here in the United States. To further make these drones a good option for people here in the United States, we have secure data capture with end-to-end 256-bit encryption. The drones have no geofencing. Anzu is very big on letting the pilots make their own decisions and make sure they're following their own rules, instead of having an automated system try to keep us from doing the jobs that we need to when it may not be necessary. Another thing that's cool about the Anzu Raptors is they're using Aloft's software for mission planning for flying. And I've always used Aloft for many years to request my Lance authorizations. I would have to pull out my phone, of course, and put in a request. But now you can do it straight from your drone controller, which is really nice. So we're going to go through some of the flight planning features. I've got a video I put together yesterday about it. But I'll kind of compare and contrast some of the things we see in here with what you may be familiar in other mission planning softwares. So this is the main home screen on an Anzu Raptor. You can zoom in and out on the map. We can plan our missions. We can request our Lance approvals. We can switch between street maps and satellite maps. And you can see in there, we have all of our airspace sections there marked off in the colors. But to set up a mission, we'll just hit automatic mission planning. And then this is all of the missions that I've saved already, but we'll create a new flight plan. And we're going to do a mapping route today. So this may look familiar. You'll select your aircraft model. You'll zoom in on your map. And we can tap dots just like pretty much all of the other mission planning softwares out there. We can tap an outline of our site. We can tap and drag to move the vertices around and modify our shape. And once we have our mission area selected, it's going to automatically populate a flight route for us and adjust it as needed when we switch the altitude and other things like that. So we'll select a Raptor series for the drone. I used a Raptor T for my missions the other day, but we're going to do this for the Raptor. It has a slightly better camera for mapping. And all of this is pretty familiar, I have to say. Although there are a couple differences we'll get to later. We're going to name our mission up here at the top. And then we can actually adjust all of our other settings by just changing our ground sample distance here. So you'll see as we reduce our ground sample distance, the drone flight path gets closer and closer together and takes a lot longer. Up at the top left, we can see the estimated mission time, how many photos this is going to take, and what the mapping area is. So we can actually see how long this is going to take and roughly how much storage it's going to take up on our SD cards before we launch the mission. So I didn't really want to spend a 45, an hour long flying this thing. So we can change our elevation to adjust our GSD. Of course, you can adjust the course angle as well to optimize the path. The controller will try to do a good job of optimizing it for you, but you can, if you want to take a little bit more control over it, you can adjust the angle of your flight path. And then we can choose what to do once the drone is finished. We've got our overlaps. It's recommended to do at least 70% overlap frontal and horizontal. 80% is even better. And then we can also adjust our margins if we want to fly outside of the bounds that we've already set, just to get a little bit more accuracy around the periphery here. Then this is kind of where we differ a little bit from mission planning that I've seen before. Once you've set up your mission and hit save, it's actually going to prompt you to choose which directory in your SD card you want to save the mission in. I chose the DCIM directory because that's what I'm most used to, but you could actually create your own folder inside the SD card for your mission storage if you so choose. You have to allow permissions for it to use the internal storage. And you can also, if you start to run out of the internal storage, you can plug in an extra SD card to the drone, or to the controller, excuse me, with which you can move files around and store extra pictures, videos, and missions. We also played around with the RTK module a little bit on the Anzu Raptor. So we're able to connect it to a lot of different options. You can connect to MLIDs, you can connect to N-trip services like TopNet Live or like OnePoint, but you can also connect to your DJI base station if you have one already. So we've got a lot of different options there, and it's pretty familiar, pretty easy to get set up with that. But basically, to set that up, we'll need to go into our flight screen. So we'll start a new flight session and go into the video feed for that. Anzu has a pre-flight checklist here. You can check these and it will record that. I will typically just skip this. I do run my own pre-flight checks and I don't need to check the boxes on the controller, but this is nice for some people who want to be reminded on certain things here. Now in this main screen, we're just going to go into our settings and turn on our RTK and then connect to whatever we'd like to use for our positioning corrections. So I'm using our DJI base station because I did have one on hand. But like I said, you can also use an N-trip service. You can use a Trimble R10, R12, what have you, whatever you're used to using to provide the corrections to your drone. You can use that to provide the corrections to your Anzu as well. You can see that my base station has a fix. And so then once I'm connected, I've got 29 satellites up at the top, and we'll be able to show you guys how to execute the flight mission that we set up earlier. So again, same deal. Here's the main screen. We're going to go into our start pre-flight on the bottom right. That will take us through the pre-flight checklist and then into the video feed from the drone. Whoops. All right, mission execution, this is the one here. So we'll go into the video feed, and then we'll select the mission and initiate it. So a couple cool things I noticed here. I've always struggled with which direction the dials turn to point the gimbal up and down or left and right. And with the Anzu, you can actually tap on the screen and just drag left and right, and you can control the gimbal that way. I found it's a lot more intuitive than what I've been used to. I'll demonstrate that here in just a second. But see how we can just touch and drag. We can actually adjust the exposure as well. But we can point the gimbal just by moving around on the touch screen, which I thought was pretty nice. Now it did take us a couple minutes to figure out how to initiate the missions. We were trying to start them from the mission planning tab originally, and it took us a second to realize we've got our missions all stored right here in the box on the top left. And when we tap that, it'll pull up all the missions that we've saved before, and we can actually just select which one we'd like to begin. Upload it to the drone, and then you are ready to go. Now I flew the mission on our block here and then came back into process. So far I've processed the data from the Anzu Raptor both in Pix4D Matic as well as DJI Terra, and I can confirm that they both work wonderfully to process the data. So I'm going to show you Pix4D Matic first. This is a model. Alex, tell me if nobody can see this, but this is a model I created yesterday of our block based off of that mission that we put together. And if I turn off the mesh, we can actually see the point cloud too. Thank you. I found that with Matic, I did wind up with a few more holes in my point cloud than I did with DJI Terra. So I'll show you guys the point cloud in Terra here in a second. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I think this would be good enough for us to draw out a map and put this into CAD. But I'm also going to show you guys the results in DJI Terra. It looks pretty similar, but when we switch over to the point cloud, I noticed that we have a lot less holes in the roads and a lot less holes on the roofs of these buildings. So as far as getting a complete picture, I did find that DJI Terra did a slightly better job of processing this. But I know you can use Terra, you can use Matic, you can use any other photogrammetry software that you would like to use for processing here. I tried to keep it short and sweet today. I kind of just wanted to give a quick overview of the mapping feature and show some of the data that we have pulled from the drone and processed. I wanted to open the floor for questions and leave a good amount of time because I know this is a new manufacturer, a new product, and I wanted to give people a chance to ask us about our experiences with it, ask about the technology. So I'm going to open the floor, and Alex, what sort of questions have we got so far?
Hi, we have someone from the audience. He is wondering if there are options for crosshatch or corridor linear flight planning.
Or, I'm sorry? Cool.
He is wondering if there are options for crosshatch or corridor/linear flight planning.
Yeah, so as far as I know, there is not a corridor flight plan in there yet. We do have like a waypoint mission, but that can be a little bit difficult when you're setting up a really long corridor. For now, I would just do a regular mapping mission and make it kind of a long, narrow shape. And the drone should be able to handle zigzagging back and forth along that corridor pretty well. And with the margin option under the advanced settings, we can actually widen that a little bit. It'll feel a lot very similar to a corridor mission that you're used to doing. Although I would be very surprised if a corridor mission planning feature didn't come soon in the pipeline. With regards to the first part, a crosshatch mission, there is not a way to do that in the software yet. But what I found is we can actually just fly the mission going north and south, and then I can edit the mission and change it to go east-west. And then I can just drag all of the files, or yeah, files from one folder into the other folder. So we just combine the files from both missions, and we can process that just fine.
We have a couple more questions. Whit, does the controller for the Raptor series drones have an HDMI out?
It does, yeah. It's down at the bottom, and you can plug in any TV that you would like in order to output that video feed.
Perfect. One more question. What is the relationship between Anzu and Aloft?
So Anzu and Aloft have partnered up together. Anzu is building the drones and distributing them around the country, but they wanted to use a US-based software company to create the mission planning, to create the user interface and all of that. And so they've partnered with Aloft Air Control, who I've used for over a year to do my Lance authorizations. Yeah. Here we go. And here's a controller. It flies very similar to a Mavic 3 Enterprise. It feels very much like a Mavic 3 Enterprise. But they use the Loft software, so that we use American-based software company with US-based servers and meeting all of the US security measures and requirements needed, so that these guys can get around that DJI ban that we're all worried about, and people can continue using the drones that they're familiar with, the drones that they're comfortable with, and the drones with the features that they need to get the job done.
Oh, what a great answer. We had one more question pop in. What is covered in the Anzu Care program?
Alex, I might need you to look that one up. I know the Anzu is covered for any factory defects, issues, flyaways, I would have to guess, although I haven't read the fine print if I'm being completely honest. Alex, can you pull that up by any chance?
Sure. So the Anzu, it includes a first-year coverage, provides peace of mind to customers. It covers accidental damage to Anzu robotic drones, including collisions, water damage, and other unforeseen incidents. They do offer another option called the Anzu Care also includes expert technical support to assist customers with any questions or concerns that they may have about the drone, uh, both from Multicopter Warehouse and Anzu. And I think that's it for the questions.
That's
Again,
all the questions?
yeah, so again, if you guys have,
We have a couple more minutes if anyone wants to pop in a quick question, but I do want to let everyone know um, that we are having an Anzu demo here at Multicopter Warehouse in Denver on August 1st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I would like to invite everyone here, and if you know anybody who's interested, feel free to invite them for us. We're going to probably have some snacks, fly the drone around, and give a live demonstration for everybody who is interested.
wait,
If you
sorry,
want to, yeah,
sorry to interrupt, Whit, but there's a lot of questions popping in.
good,
So,
good.
is Anzu planning on coming out with their own base station?
Mm, that's a that's a good question. As far as I know, the answer is no. I haven't heard anything about that coming down the pipeline. They are recommending, I've seen on their site, they're recommending MLID base stations, and I've had good experiences and heard good things about those.
Wait, more questions are popping in. How does it
Yes,
handle terrain to achieve a consistent AGL but on a sloped site?
yeah. So I believe it's really similar to using a DJI for that sort of thing. We've got the downward sensors here, RGB sensors that'll kind of give us the distances. So they're used typically for obstacle avoidance, but you can also tap into those to keep a consistent AGL value. You can also import your own surface file. and have it follow the digital terrain model that you've done yourself. I knew we would have more questions.
I think that's it though. Again,
Nah,
if you guys have any more questions come up, feel free to give us a call or email Whit.
yep, I've got my phone number and email down in the bottom left, so feel free to reach out if you have questions. If you can't make it to the August 1st demo but would like to set up another time, I'm here every day, Monday through Friday. So reach out to me. I'm happy to set something up. And thank you everybody for coming. It's nice to see so many people interested in this new technology.